We're rolling.
Welcome back, everybody. Episode 42 of the Jiu Jitsu Dummies podcast. We are sponsored by Fightback CBD. Get 20% off your CBD order at fightbackcbd.com with code JJD. Just remember, Fightback is helping and giving back to people with mental health and substance abuse issues through Jiu Jitsu. So please support those supporting the Jiu Jitsu community. My name is Milton Campus, Purple Belt. Fight Sports Coral Springs. You can check me out on Instagram at Uncle Milty BJJ. My friends named me that when I was a little kid. Didn't know why. Now I do. I'll tell you later. Me and Bo with you today. You can hear the little giggling behind the.
Mr.
You can't see him. You can't see this handsome gentleman over here, but it's me and Bo today in our new Miami studio. Woo! Welcome everybody. Thank you for setting this all up, Bo. You did a great job.
I sleep in the trailer outside.
Yeah. Joining us in a few minutes is Eli Knight. Everybody knows who Eli Knight is. I'm sure you've seen some of his tutorial videos on YouTube. He's a second-degree black belt under Royce Gracie. He'll be with us in just a minute. Huge shout-out to Flow and Roll, at Flow_and_roll on Instagram. Get 20% off your online T-shirt, rash guard, or gi order with code JJD at flowandroll.com. All right? DD214 Fightwear, at DD214_Fightwear. Gear for the war on PTSD. All right, get 15% off your online order at dd214bjj.com. So the Instagram is dd214_fightwear. The .com is dd214bjj.com. Had a couple of questions about that the other day. Please check out their new Soul Armor Memorial Day gi. It's really cool. The liner for the gi is composed of the names of fallen warriors. It's really, really cool. Go to their Instagram, check it out. You're gonna love it. It's
That's pretty neat.
Yeah,
that's kind of
Yeah, they DD214, We Defy, Warriors Next Adventures. I mean, those guys are all working together and they all support each other in the veteran community. So
nice.
We're just trying to get them a little shine. All right. I'll put the link. Normally I link to the website. I'm going to put a link directly to the gi, to that gi. So if you want to check it out, go to the description here or on the podcast sound and check it out. Warriors Next Adventure, nonprofit. Nick was on last week. They're doing a documentary called PTSD versus Jiu Jitsu. They just started their tour last night in Minnesota. They did their first shoot with TJ. I think it was at TJ's gym. Yeah, they did it with TJ. TJ put out some videos, some of the kind of behind the scenes interviewing, but they're sponsoring the show. We want to support them. They're going to be doing a 50-day. What do you call it? On the road documentary, right, Yeah. So it's
that's a trip.
Really cool. Support them if you can. The GoFundMe link to support the organization and the documentary, it's in the bio as well here. All right. They're going to be traveling the country starting in April, again for 50 days. So just check out the website, click on the PTSD versus Jiu-Jitsu tab to see the tour dates and locations. You can come out and be a part of filming. They'll actually be at my gym in May. Is it May? Yeah, in May. And we're going to be shooting on a Saturday open mat. They're going to come in and do some stuff. So check them out at warriorsnextadventure.com. You'll see all the info. Welcome to our newest sponsor, Retro Grappler. Right, we'll be collaborating with Christopher on some new designs going forward, including our new microphone dummy. I think this is really cool. Take a look at this. Bo, you can probably throw this up on the screen, right?
Yeah.
There we go.
There he goes.
Kind of cool, right? I told him I wanted like a microphone character. The guy's amazing. He's going to be doing some stuff with us. I'm hoping to turn this into a rash guard, like a full rash guard with background, front and back, the whole nine. Check him out at Retro Grappler Shop on Instagram and check him out at retrograppler.com. He's got really cool designs on his own gear like rash guards, Muay Thai shorts. He does some stuff with a fighting organization. I don't remember the name, but I see some gloves that he designed, like the graphic on some gloves, some boxing gloves.
Nice.
Really cool stuff. Super talented guy. He did this in like 2 days.
Nice.
And that always blows my mind when I see something like this. I'm like, geez, man, this would take me a lifetime to design something like this. I know for you, you're a graphic designer, Bo, so I know for you, this is like, yeah, I can do that.
Takes me an hour to do that. It takes me 3 weeks to get to it.
Yes, I know. But yeah, thank you, Chris. Love the design. Let me get the logo scroll back up. And yeah, hope to be getting that on some T-shirts. I think you'll see that on our shop site pretty soon. And again, check him out at retrograppler.com. The other day when we talked about the companies that saved our butts for the giveaway, the gi giveaway.
Mm-hmm.
Remember we had two patch companies that sent some stuff out and I couldn't remember their name. I didn't write it down. I just kind of had a brain fart. I just wanted to make sure I gave them a proper shout out. So on Instagram, it's at JJ_neck, and that's JJ Red Threads. Right, that was one company. They sent out some patches. They sent out 5 patches each to the winners of that they got Tap Cancer Out or Flow and Roll Gis, right? The other company, and these guys are actually from Australia, which was really cool that they jumped into something here in the States, and I appreciate them sending out the prizes. At Weapons Grade Official, and it's weapons-grade.com.au. All right, so thank you guys so much for supporting. You guys did a great deed. Huh? And hey, listen, if you guys want to do anything else, let me know. We can do some giveaways.
They're Dan Under.
Yeah, I'm not going to try to do this. I'm not going to even try to be part of that right there.
You're Dan Under.
Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share us wherever you're watching. If you're watching us on YouTube, don't forget to. I got it.
You got the bell.
Click the bell on our page to get notifications each time we launch new videos. Again,
it's not my best.
Comment. We haven't done a commenting. We haven't done a commenting giveaway in a while. Let's do one. Let's best comment on episode. This is 42. Best comment on episode 42 on YouTube specifically. Best comment, we'll send you a podcast tee. I'll let you choose between the old podcast tee and this new microphone tee. Good?
I'm terrible with giveaways. I would give like chips.
I give away everything. Deodorant. My wife's like, why do you give so much stuff away?
I would be giving chips of my underarm deodorant. Like, you can have a
comment on the YouTube video. Best comment, nicest comment.
Nicest comment.
Gets a free podcast tee. I'll send it out to you. I'll get your info. All right. You got anything, Bo? You want to add?
No.
You good?
I'm good to go.
All right. Let's get Eli in here. Let's do this.
Let's do it.
All right, joining us today is Eli Knight. He is a 2nd degree black belt under Hoist Gracie. I think some of you guys might know who that is, right? Welcome, Eli.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you, man. You've been a part of my jiu-jitsu journey for quite some time. We've never spoken, but just like I think most people listening, you search anything jiu-jitsu on YouTube or even online, your face is going to pop up somewhere. So
that was the plan. That's what I'm trying to make happen. So
yeah, man.
That's good. Yeah.
We see you a lot, man. I was definitely. I've told this story quite a few times. When I first started jiu-jitsu, it was a family friend opened up a gym. I started, was really his first student. He had one female student that quit a week later. Then it was me, and I used to bring my iPad, and I used to be like, "Hey, man, I saw this video." It used to annoy the hell out of him in the beginning. But then after a while, he would just be, at the end of we would do some drilling. And then again, it was just me and him. So he'd be like, what do you got this week? And I'd have my iPad right there on the side of the mat. And then he started welcoming it. And it was kind of cool for him to kind of throw in some content. So I'd show him videos of you, of Jason Scully. I'd be like, we're both big guys. I'm 230. He was 265. So it was kind of like, wow. Oh, big guy moves, okay, this is the way I would do it. And yeah, you've been part of my journey for quite some time. So I guess I owe you a big thank you.
Well, that's incredible to hear, man. It's always weird for me to hear that. It's still a weird idea that people that I've never met before, like they've watched enough of my videos to feel like they kind of know me. It's like, so they'll send me a message and it's like very friendly, which is cool with me. That's because I'm a pretty laid back guy, and it's like, hey man, I was noticing in this video, and they'll ask me a question, and I always try to answer everything that I possibly can. But it's really cool whenever I hear stories like that, because I was I am the same way. I'm not going to say I was the same way, because when back in the day when I first started, there was no YouTube, there was barely internet. So it's like, but now it's cool. I literally just did that this afternoon. I had a couple private lessons, and then I have a buddy who comes in that we train together, and we're sitting there breaking down this Craig Jones video, and we're like sitting like taking it back. It's like, what's he doing right there? You know, but I don't guess that ever stops for anybody, you know?
Yeah. You know, that's one of the things that I've commented on a lot, especially, you know, when it comes to your videos, is I like the details. I like to, when like put your foot here, you know, I'm the guy that's circling my coach when he's showing a move, and I'm like, damn, where's his foot? Where's that foot? I can't see that. Like, I need to know those little bits. So I like when somebody breaks it down the way you do, and it really, you know, it really helps me. Some people a little bit more like, yeah, I'll figure it out when I get in there. You know, I like to kind of see those little things, and that's when I usually get things, you know. So, man, you've been, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, I'm the same way. I think that's why I teach that way, because I teach to people with kind of my learning style, which is, you know, I've kind of figured out what ratio of kinesthetic to auditory to visual that I am. And so I try to accommodate everybody to no matter like what, you know, ratio they might be in all those different areas. But I also understand that, like, you know, whenever I'm teaching on something that is, you know, like YouTube versus Instagram versus whatever the platform is kind of based off of what people's likely attention span is as well. So YouTube, you can get a little bit more long form, but I also like to keep it concise too, because I've got a very short attention span myself. So I start to get going a little quicker, and you know, then have to stop and rewind some things. But
so you back to regular training now? You mentioned you were doing some privates. You're in Kentucky, right?
Yes, sir. Yep.
What I don't know. What are things like that, like there, as it relates to Corona and the pandemic? Are you guys open completely?
It's the easiest way to say is yes. Yeah, we are. I mean, we
so maybe, I guess.
I mean, what I know we are. I mean, like, but you know, as far as what we're supposed to be doing, I don't, you know, not adhering per se strictly to the guidelines. But I mean, honestly, even since we were like locked down, which, you know, we were for a while, and then we did the whole thing that everybody has done. It's like, okay, we're going to be locked down, and then, okay, well, here comes a little bit of leniency. You can start opening up to this degree. And now you can open up 5% more. No, we're going to take you back. And that whole yo-yo kind of thing. We basically back in June, after we've been closed down for a couple months, we were like, you know, we're going to open up. And, you know, we were like, what are we going to do? Or are we going to try to do some restrictions? Like, are we going to try to accommodate any of these guidelines at all? Because, you know, we're going to do the training and masks thing and try to just come in and do like drills, like, you know, 10 feet apart from each other or whatever. And basically we didn't have our entire student body start back, but we had a pretty good portion of them start back, and everybody was just ready to train. Yeah. And so, you know, I'm not saying, you know, people can judge whatever they want to on how responsible that was or whatever. But I mean, to this day, we've been training full force basically since June 1st, every day of the week. And we've had people who have gotten COVID, but not ever from here. Like we'll see somebody who was gone for a while, and then we'll find out it's like, oh yeah, I got COVID. I was like, oh damn, well, when did you have it? Well, like when were you last in contact with somebody from here, just to make sure. But we've never had like an epidemic of a breakout here. So, which, I mean, we don't have a lot of it around where I am in Kentucky anyway. You go to the other side of the state around maybe Louisville and Lexington, it might be a little bit, you know, more severe and bigger populated areas, but we're in a smaller town in Western Kentucky. There really hasn't been that big of an incidence of it here. So we've been very fortunate in that regard, you know.
I haven't trained with a mask on yet. And there's a little part of me when I see the videos online and on Instagram, and I see people training in their masks. In my mind, as soon as the camera goes off, everybody's like, all right, we can take that off. All right. We showed them that we're being good. But I mean, I just going to the store with the mask on, I'm like, you know, like hard to breathe. And it's so weird, man. I couldn't imagine trying to train with it. I went to a gym in my complex once with the mask on, and I only put it on because another guy, when I walked in, he was doing some cardio and he put it on when he saw me come in. So I just said, all right, I guess, you know, that's my cue to put it on. And when he left, I took it off. But that's just real hard.
It's weird, man. We're all kind of like learning how to interact with each other, you know, and it sucks. Like it sucks a lot. Like speaking of going to the gym, like when I go to the gym to like, you know, work out, it's been the same kind of thing. It's like basically, you know, the rules keep changing. They keep kind of moving the rules around a little bit. Basically, I go in there now for the past, you know, probably couple months, and like people may wear their mask as they're walking in the door, but it's off as soon as they hit a machine. And but again, I mean, you can look at, you know, whatever you know, opinions and everything. Like, you know, I've been trying to track this stuff pretty closely just because everybody's, you know, obsessed with it. And the incidence of people contracting this from a gym, from a fitness center, a health facility at all, it's like microscopic. It's on a global scale. It is microscopic from the best they can even track, which is still difficult to do. So, I mean, the biggest, you know, I'll reserve a lot of my opinions about all of it to not get political or whatever. But I think that the biggest atrocity that they did, anybody did during this, was to shut down fitness facilities. Like that was I'll argue with anybody that was an absolutely moronic idea, because the one thing that somebody could go to keep themselves physically fit, because you look at what's the overwhelming majority of people who contract a deadly you know, like that it's deadly for or severe for, it's older people and obese people. So, I mean, why are you going to take that away from people? Anyway, I'm going to leave that alone because I'm going to start ranting and stuff.
No, listen, I agree. And I talked a lot more about the mental side of it. I don't know if I want to say I was lucky enough, but the day before I was going into quarantining for my regular 9-to-5 job, I blew out my knee. It wound up being a sprained ACL and MCL, but I was out for months. And if it wasn't for that, I probably would have gone to train. So there was a little part of me that was forced, you know, not a little part. I was forced to stay home. But I probably would have trained during that time. Now we had 2 people get COVID that were in my gym, but again, like you said, not from our gym. They were closed. Those people got COVID, never were in our gym or on the mats, and I haven't heard one incidence from my gym since it's been. And you know, they were, you know, I'll do wink, wink, wink. You know, they were closed the entire time.
Right.
You know, they were closed. No secret underground training.
Yeah.
And no one ever got COVID. So, you know, for me though, it was a little bit more about the mental side, because, you know, I'll go out and again, go to the gym in the complex or go for a walk with the wife, you know, do something, stay active and work out in the house, you know, do some solo drills, throw on a video. But for me, it's the mental for me, that stress release that I get from going to the gym and, you know, getting beat up and, you know, putting it on a white belt, you know, that's what I missed, you know. And again, it wasn't even from the pandemic, from the knee on top of it. So,
yeah, dude, I think that was, you know, you saw so much, and we're still seeing so much of people like just suffering in that regard. I mean, dealing with depression, dealing with, and, you know, and by proximity, you know, dealing with substance abuse and dealing with, you know, domestic problems, because they're, you know, taking out their difficulties mentally and psychologically on, you know, whoever's in close proximity to them. Whenever they don't have that release, they don't have that ability to get out and get their therapy. Because I mean, jiu-jitsu for so many of us who made it a lifestyle, it's nothing short of absolutely therapy, you know, for us. And so, yeah, man, I hate to see it. It breaks my heart, because I've got a lot of Canadian friends, and I've been talking with them. They just rolled everything back up there. Like they have just shut down like day one again. Yeah. And it's absolutely absurd that the measures that they're taking up there. And I mean, I've talked to several of them. It's like, man, you know, I've got a buddy who, you know, I'm not gonna name any names or anything, but he's, you know, he's well established up there. He has a school. He's like, man, I can't do this anymore. He's been keeping it afloat with his own money and having to work extra hard to make other sources of income to keep his school afloat for whenever they allow him to open. They allowed him to open for a couple months and then locked him back up. And, you know, he's got kids, he's got a wife, he's got family up there, but he's like, man, I've got to move. We can't stay around here. We can't do this anymore. Yeah. So it's tough, man. It's putting everybody through the ringer. It's awful.
Yeah. We do a lot of work with, you know, some of our sponsors. like our CBD company, 5-Pack CBD, they help people with substance abuse and mental health issues find jiu-jitsu, or they help them through jiu-jitsu. The owner will pay for like a gi and get them training, pay for their training for a little while. We Defy, same thing, right? You know, PTSD, wounded combat vets, DD214. I've got their shirt on. They're doing stuff for you know, PTSD and veterans. And you know, it's always the same thing. It's like, do they, you know, the people that are making these decisions really understand what they're doing? And you know, think about that veteran with PTSD, that this is his only outlet. And you know, we're, you know, in jiu-jitsu, we've all come across somebody who's doing this strictly for the mental health benefits. You know, whether it's a veteran or first responder, whatever it may be, we know so intimately what that means to them. So when we hear them closing gyms, we're just like, what the? Are you kidding me? Do they? You know, and again, and we know that I haven't heard of one gym, and I think that we would have heard if there was like a huge outbreak in a gym, if it was because of a gym, whether it's LA Fitness or a jiu-jitsu school. I haven't heard one story where an outbreak, you know, started in a gym, and it could certainly happen, and I could be wrong tomorrow, but we haven't heard any of those stories yet. You know, it's like, hey, that group of healthy people over there, they just spread it to everybody, and everybody dropped dead. Not once.
Yeah. No, not once. And I mean, and so it's just, it's absurd, man, to close down places where people are trying to keep themselves healthy and do something positive for themselves. I mean, it's that's the worst thing that they could do as measures, I think. And then, you know, it's been done over and over again. So I don't know. It's crazy. I am glad that there are organizations like that. I've heard of We Defy, and I've heard of your CBD company that you're sponsored by. The DD214, I'm not familiar with that, but that sounds like an awesome group.
They're newer, DD214, and I'm probably not going to do it justice. I'm not a veteran. I did not serve, but all of the people that I started the podcast with, everyone, all of the hosts, my co-hosts, were either former military, and then we had a female on the show in the very beginning. Her husband was still active in the Marines. So we were just surrounded by all these people, and somebody mentioned Mission 22, and then We Defy, and we basically, the show became an ambassador. I'm an ambassador, but I say the show is the ambassador. We just had them on last episode, on episode 41. We had TJ Kreitzer come on. He's the VP of operations over there. So, you know, intimately involved with those companies. But DD214, I believe, is the form that you fill out, or that tracks where you serve. Like if you go on, you know, you move around to different places.
That's why it sounds familiar. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So and the guys over at DD214, Josh Milt, if I hope I'm doing it justice. I usually have a military guy to defer to in house. But yeah, they're put it this way, like they have a new gi coming out, and they put the entire lining are the names of fallen soldiers. So it's like all the names. I
saw you post that. Did you post a picture of that?
Yeah, I just reposted that. That
is awesome.
Let me, I got the name here actually. Man, Soul Armor, their Memorial Day gi is what they're calling it, Soul Armor. The entire lining is just names that were submitted of fallen soldiers by, you know, family members and friends and things like that. So they have that coming out, which is really cool. So, you know, we kind of, you know, it wasn't like we started the podcast to search that out, but it became, we became a sounding board for those companies, and we love those partnerships, and it's just been, you know, it's been really great. And again, you know, lots of conversations with them about, you know, what these closings did, and believe it or not, they've raised more money. They had a record year in money raised, and they're having a record year in the amount of scholarships they're going to award, you know, even through the pandemic. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So real happy about that.
That's very cool.
So let's talk a little bit about, if I can, you mentioned you do seminars, and I, you know, when one of the videos I watched, you know, that I've seen probably more than once, you were talking a little bit about that you travel and do seminars. How did that get affected? Did you just completely have to stop doing seminars, as you know, traveling seminars at least?
Yeah, man. Like when I'm trying to think when they started kind of dropping. Basically, when there was talk about, man, what was it, back in February maybe of last year? Whenever there was talk about, you know, what's happening, and you know, this is really becoming a pandemic, and so I probably already had about 10 to 12 seminars scheduled for the coming year, like through the summer and even into fall, and even one that was in December of last year. And they just had to, like, it's like, man, we're not going to be able to do it. We're not going to be able to do it. And it's just like, they kept dropping. A couple of them transitioned to virtual and wound up doing like a Zoom version of a seminar. But and look, I'm happy to do whatever I can to whatever capacity, but man, Zoom jiu-jitsu just sucks so bad, dude.
Funny enough, one of the questions asked for you to demonstrate a move, and I was like, okay, we're gonna leave that one out because no, we're not gonna be able to do that today.
I would rather like film it separate and send it to you or something. Like honestly, like man. Now if we were set up for it, that'd be a different story. But
yeah.
But yeah. It is, man. Like, and again, like, I'm happy to do it with places that's the only way I can get with them, the only way I can interact with them, and it's going to be something that's actually going to be helpful. And I've done a few of the Zoom things where people on the other end will be in a small group where they'll have a partner, and so it's actually functional that way. But man, I've done some that was like basically I'm having to show on a throwing dummy some drills and some techniques that you can do for training, and people are using everything from a pillow to a bag to just the floor, their dog, like whatever they got. And it's rough, man, because me and my buddy Drew made a joke about it. He was like, the part of class everyone wants to skip is now the only part we can do, and it's the warm-ups.
Wow. So how did this, like, I gotta say, you're probably living the dream that most, let's say, I don't even say beginners, but a lot of jiu-jitsu guys wish that they could do this full time.
Absolutely.
Me included. I've been there. This is my contribution though. Now that the podcast is what, train, regular job, and then the podcast. How did this start? How did you become, Eli Knight, the guy that does all the videos? Where did this really start for you?
I don't know. I just love jiu-jitsu, man. I just loved training. And, I started out training in Japanese jiu-jitsu with my teacher, who's actually about 25 feet away from me right now. We're still in the same place. We've moved locations and stuff, but I'm still with him. And we've been Three Rivers, martial arts, like since, 25 years ago or more.
Wow.
And I started training under him. He was a black belt in jiu-jitsu but again, it was like this Japanese style. So, we had judo incorporated into it. And also we were doing Filipino martial arts. We're doing Jeet Kune Do. We're doing like just all this stuff. And I was just eating up with all of it. I just loved it. I did Taekwondo before that, but we don't need to talk about all that. Sticking around with him, like once the UFC, had happened, like around that same time, and then seeing Hoist, of course. And then, we started to train more Gracie jiu-jitsu and transition more into Gracie jiu-jitsu. And it just, again, it kept just exponentially growing, of course, all across the world and all across the nation. And accessibility became a little easier because we've always been, here in this small town in Kentucky. And, so we would have to travel a lot in the beginning stages of it. And for a while, for a number of years, we'd have to travel and go to seminars and camps and however we could get to wherever someone was teaching. But anyway, like I decided, a while back, I didn't really want to open my own brick and mortar facility. I was always happy teaching here. And, plus once life really started happening and I had a daughter and all that, then, I didn't want to move away. So it's basically, I kind of had to decide, well, I have to grow where I'm planted. That was kind of the recognition. I got to grow where I'm planted. So how do I do that? How do I not have to open my own brick and mortar and compete with someone here in town or move away? And so, I started making these little videos of like, I was going to do like a technique of the week kind of idea back in like like 2006 or 7, whenever YouTube first came out. And I would do one once in a while. And I didn't think it was going to go anywhere. It was something fun to do, and it didn't go anywhere. It went virtually nowhere. After about 10 years of doing that, and racking up, a certain amount of videos, I had about 6,000 subscribers that I had accumulated over about a decade of time.
Oh, wow.
And I was psyched about it. I was like, man, I'm really getting up there now. 5,000, 6,000 subscribers. I'm doing good, So I started taking it more seriously. And then something just happened a few years back in like 2017. And I had a couple of videos that did really well. And my channel just started getting bigger and bigger for some reason. And so I was like, oh, now I really need to take this more seriously. So I started getting more consistent and putting stuff out. and in the interim, I started to kind of do the social media thing and post stuff, and I guess it got the right attention because people started liking, I guess, how I taught things and asking me to come to a seminar or teach to some other capacity, and I just started to do that and travel more, and I was very lucky to do collaborative things, instructionals with some of the first collaborations I did was with a group called Aperture. It was formerly a offshoot of Funker Tactical.
Okay.
I'm not really associated with them anymore, but they were, that got me a good kind of introduction into bigger stages things. And I've done stuff with BJJ Fanatics and Budo Brothers, and it's all been kind of just growing. I don't know, man. I have no idea. I've been lucky. Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of those. I remember the Aperture videos. Those are probably the first ones that I would see were always the Aperture videos. Now, how long have you been training total? When did you start?
At
least jiu-jitsu, and
right.
Maybe not all martial arts, but
yeah, I think with what we would call, I don't like saying Brazilian jiu-jitsu personally, but from the Brazilian paradigm, Gracie jiu-jitsu style jiu-jitsu. Mm-hmm. That I've really been training for between 20 to 25 years. It's hard to track because it was such a kind of transitional stage, but probably 20 or 25 years.
So we've talked about that a lot on the show. I don't really care either way myself. I kind of just call it jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
The American jiu-jitsu versus, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, you say you only like to call it jiu-jitsu? Do you have a reason or a take, or, I know there was Flow Grappling did a thing with those guys from Daisy Fresh, where
right.
they did a little bit like American jiu-jitsu. Keenan Cornelius likes to call it American jiu-jitsu. What's your take on that whole thing?
I think the first guy to ever call it American jiu-jitsu that I'm aware of was either, it may have been Robert Drysdale, or maybe Rafael Lovato, maybe.
Okay.
But I mean, I don't know. I mean, I feel like, I don't mind anybody calling it anything. It's whatever. But I've never personally even been to Brazil. Obviously, my teacher is from Brazil, but I've never gone to Brazil to see him. I've always ever seen him in the United States. And it's like, what is that? What does it really mean to put a geographical tag to it? It's originally a Japanese art. The way it was taught and conveyed to, the Brazilians who turned it into Brazilian jiu-jitsu, particularly the Gracie family, I mean, I don't think that, they were calling it Gracie jiu-jitsu. There weren't, I don't know if there's anything indicatively from the Brazilian geography that changed anything about it. It's how is the information conveyed. The techniques aren't even a ton different, not the foundational layer of it anyway. Now, we can talk about sport versus self-defense versus MMA versus gi versus no gi versus submission grappling. All that matters, but I don't know. You just
listed
jiu-jitsu.
all of my next questions. I have all those questions. Yeah, I guess awesome. It's kind of like, when you go to China, they don't call it Chinese food. When you go to Brazil, they don't call it Brazilian jiu-jitsu, right? It's just jiu-jitsu.
Right.
It's when it came here, they said, it was either Gracie jiu-jitsu, and I think then people started to call it Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I don't know the exact history of it, but the first person that I saw before I ever trained jiu-jitsu, I remember I recognized it. He trains with the Diaz brothers. His first name is Jake. I forget his last name.
Jake Shields.
Jake Shields. In his intro, when they put the call out on the bottom of the screen, it would say American Jiu-Jitsu. I could remember that. I was like, American Jiu-Jitsu. What is that? Then I saw his apparel. His apparel line to this day still says American Jiu-Jitsu. And again, that was before I even trained Jiu-Jitsu, so I didn't even think about it. But then as it came out, I'm like, I know that I've been seeing American Jiu-Jitsu since Jake Shields. But I mean, I get the argument. I think it's kind of a non-argument, though. Right. It's evolved. I am sure Japanese people that were training jiu-jitsu were saying the same thing when they started to hear Gracie jiu-jitsu put in front of it, or Brazilian jiu-jitsu. So it's kind of just, shit rolls downhill. So we're going to get that here until it just becomes kind of, just part of the culture.
Yeah, man, I think, and that's the thing. I think that more than anything, it's just to create contention where there doesn't even need to be any. It's like you said, it's a non-argument. It's like so many of the pseudo political arguments in martial arts period, but in jiu-jitsu they're just silly. It's people creating problems for no reason. It's like, just shut up, man. Just train. Just do.
That's the whole world.
Shit.
That's the whole world. If you watch the news
is.
for the last 4 or 6 years, it's just like, let me drop this nugget right here. They say, and I don't know who they is. They say that this is this thing and that and the other, and then it's like, no, it's not. And we're a microcosm of that, but it's definitely it happens in this world. I mean, kind of like I feel like in my mind when I hear somebody say American Jiu-Jitsu, I think of the leg game. That's what triggers in my mind, is that there's so much more. You got the John Danahers, you got the Danaher Death Squad, you've got guys like like Daisy Fresh and those guys. There's a huge right.
Planet's a cornerstone of what would be considered American Jiu-Jitsu, if you want to consider it that. Yeah,
right. It's like that. When I hear it, that's what I'm thinking of, the below the belt stuff. Yeah. It's like heel hooks, leg locks, and things that I've had people say to us, in just interviews or on the show. Try to heel hook an old school Brazilian guy, or be in Brazil doing a heel hook on your professor. How disrespectful that would have been. He'd want to kill you for doing that. And I think that's the evolution here, is that ground game. Sure. But it's always crazy that when I'm talking about jiu-jitsu to somebody who knows nothing, or a mom that's asking me, what I want to get my kids into karate, what should I do? And when they say karate, they know it's all martial arts. And when they start talking about it, and again, I start thinking about again, the leg stuff more than anything. But I guess it's evolved so much in so many different ways. It's the only martial art that's always evolving. Like there's no introduction. Yeah. I mean, because I did American Taekwondo for 3 months when I was 19. I remember that. Mm-hmm. It's the only martial art where you can go back 3 months from now and there's a whole bunch of new techniques that you can learn. Not that you have to learn, but you can learn. You did Taekwondo, you did other martial arts. That doesn't exist. That doesn't happen. There's not a whole new set of katas or moves or anything, right?
Yeah, and that's exactly why I fell in love with this kind of jiu-jitsu too, because it was like, for one thing, it's like, doing a lot of traditional martial arts. A lot of times, you go into a karate class or a Taekwondo class, and my experience anyway was that, everybody line up, get into this stance, do this block 1,000 times, do this, learn this kata or whatever. And it's like, before you even have a contextualized 2-step sparring situation or anything, it's way on down the line. And first exposure that I had to Gracie Jiu-Jitsu was like, okay, here's how you get out of a headlock. And I'm like, that's awesome. That's immediately accessible. I get the reference. I understand where this is going to happen, now. But yeah, it's like you said too, it's constantly evolving. And it's not only the leg game that comes to mind for me whenever I think about American Jiu-Jitsu, or I think about, the more modern Jiu-Jitsu game. It's wrestling. There's so much wrestling incorporated into it. There's so much else. So for me, I felt like it was kind of an open source martial art whenever I came into it. To see something stylized and traditional in jiu-jitsu these days, and especially Brazilian like style like jiu-jitsu, it feels weird. It feels like counter to the culture that I initially understood. Mm-hmm. You can even find things back in the 50s, I guess, probably 60s, 70s, that when it came over from Japanese jiu-jitsu converting into the Brazilian paradigm and getting those new eyes and those new hands on it. And you think about up through the 80s, whenever people like Hickson and Hollis and the Gracie family members were going to sambo tournaments, and they were going to wrestling tournaments, and they were cross training with other people. And so there was an element of it. They were keeping it, in my estimation of it, they were keeping it real and keeping it philosophically and structurally jiu-jitsu. It was staying jiu-jitsu, but it was like, hey, there's a better way to do this double leg takedown. There's a better way to do this throw. There's a better way to do this arm lock. This catch wrestler over here has a pretty good way of, putting this into perspective here. So, and I think to me, I always like to see people that are very open-minded. I always like to see styles and systems that are willing to adopt and to learn and to bring things in from different arts. Now, I totally get how that can be a good and bad thing. because it can be a bad thing. Just because you see something cool over here doesn't mean that it needs to come in and supplant something else that you've already been doing a certain way for a number of years. It still needs to be tested out and really analyzed and kind of be put through the test of time a little bit. But I think that door should stay open though, So, and regardless of what element of jiu-jitsu it is, man, if it's sport, if it's against MMA, it's more competition or it's more self-defense, whatever.
I like the term you used before. I sell marketing and web design during the day. That's my day job. Yeah. And you said open source. Yeah. We use that a lot. That's I've never heard anybody put it that way. That's, I understand that, right? Anybody can contribute, right? You can make this what you want it to be. Yeah. It's kind of like the old Bruce Lee adage, right? Take what's useful,
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what, and, again, like, I came from a background originally, like once I started to train with Jason Hawkins, and he was teaching Jeet Kune Do concepts at the time. He was teaching Filipino martial arts, and he was along with the jiu-jitsu and the judo that we were working on, and the Muay Thai, everything else. And so that, I instantly kind of fell in love with that concept of, absorb what is useful and discard what's not, or whatever the exact saying goes. And that's, to me, that's something that seemed acceptable within the realm of jiu-jitsu. So that's how I, to this day, still kind of live my jiu-jitsu life. I can, there's certain things that I do exactly the way that I learned them 20 something years ago from Royce Gracie, like exactly the same way. And, but there's other techniques too, where like, I've gotten a different viewpoint or something that fits my body better, maybe, or whatever. You can't just be a cookie cutter like version of your teacher or teachers or whatever. You have to kind of find your own way. So.
Yeah. Have you ever been out for an extended period of time with an injury?
No, I've been like handicapped in my training from an injury, but I've never really, even when I probably should have, I never really stopped training for an extended period of time. Like, and I'm torn up because of it. Like my body is just busted, man. Like I wouldn't recommend a lot of people doing, I would recommend people being patient, taking that time, going to, doctors and stuff like that, whenever you
I like the air quotes, doctors.
Yeah.
Doctors.
Yeah. Oh man, like for a number of years, we had a really great orthopedic surgeon in house that we trained with, and man, he fixed me up so many times. He fixed my broken hand, my busted rib, my torn up knees. He or not just fix me up, but he would like guide me through the process, and he would monitor me. So that was really cool to have. Like
I saw your hand taped up, and there was a lot of videos with your hand taped up. Was that the same injury? Is that the injury you're talking about?
Yeah, it's still just as bad. I just give up on the tape. Like somebody asked me the other day, it's like somebody the other day, it was like, hey man, I noticed you don't tape your hands or fingers anymore. Your wrist, is your wrist better? And I'm like, no, man, it's actually worse.
Tape's
like
expensive unless you have a sponsor.
Yeah, exactly. And it is funny. I got several people to send me tape from different companies and stuff. And so I try to give them shout outs and whatever, but I'm like, after a while, I'm just like, man, this is more hassle than it's worth. And it wasn't doing anything to, it would still get hyper extended. Like now hyperextension on my wrist is like anything, I don't know if you can see past that. Like,
really?
So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, like that to that is that's all I got. So basically now these knuckles are all raw because I have to post on my knuckles on this hand, and then this hand over here, this knuckle has been
that's a big freaking knuckle right there.
Well, it's partly that it's big. It's been broken and busted, but then the bone right here has also been broken, so it shrank down. So this hand's messed up. So between both my hands and wrists, I've got one functioning arm between the two open.
I'm not laughing at you. I am laughing with you. And I was out for probably, I think it was probably 9 months for the knee. And I've been back for a few months. And then I hurt my rib the other day. Yeah, that one's not fun. I've had that happen one other time. That was last Sunday. So I haven't trained this week, but able to go to do weights, able to lift. A couple of things I can't do, just hurts. Can't sneeze. I haven't been. You had a rib injury. Have you ever had one?
Oh, Yeah, I've got it's my, I don't know which one it is or whatever, but it's a thing apparently. It's a like cauliflower ear is a thing.
Oh,
like
really?
This one, that one grappler's rib.
Oh,
is a
really?
thing. Yeah, like because I've got this one protuberant rib, and I've noticed it with several other people. And then I was talking to someone about it, like and this was only a few months ago, and they're like, "Yeah, you got that." I forget what they called it. And
I'm gonna have to look into that.
Yeah, I need to find that out too, man, because it's a thing. Like
I had
don't know if it's
it was hurting me just a little bit, but I was training, no pressure. Like I actually have to like dig my finger under it, like kind of, right in line with it. And I was fine. I was training. Somebody did some crate, jumped over me, like kind of put a shoulder in, and I was just kind of let out a scream. And during the week, felt it. It was bothering me. Put ice. That wasn't helping. Ibuprofen wasn't helping. But man, if you've got to sneeze, I'm like holding my nose, trying not to sneeze. Got to like put pressure on it so it doesn't pop out. But that's been making it worse. But coughing, laughing, it's been horrible. Yeah. So now, part of my point was, number one is I'm starting to feel like now I've only been out a week, but in my mind's going, I'm forgetting my jujitsu. Yeah. I know it's there, but I'm like, okay, I was out for 9 months and I was just getting back, and I was just feeling like I was getting back into the swing of things, and now I got to be out again. And if I want to do this right, I probably need to take a good 3 weeks. I mean, it's week 1 and I'm still hurts. I'm assuming I'm going to maybe even be out for the month, but there's that little part of me that's just like, I guess I can go to the gym and sit and go on the bike and and watch class. But in my mind's telling me that I'm forgetting my jujitsu. What is that? Yeah. How do you pass? Yeah.
Oh, dude, it's so funny, and that it's that saying, I think, that sticks with us at some point in our lives whenever we hear. It's like, every second that you're not training, someone else is.
Yeah.
It's that damn, I'm forgetting, I'm sucking now, like all my knowledge is just slipping away from me, all my abilities. But yeah, like, so what that makes me do, like I kind of mentioned before, is I come in and I just train handicap,
yeah.
Like when one of the I've got a chronic back injury that I've had since I was like in my 20s, and so it'll flare up on me every now and then, and like I've got to really be cautious in my movement. So but luckily by this point I know how to play old man jiu-jitsu, like like not even the good kind of old man jiu-jitsu, like not like old man strength, good technique, just like I know how to be lazy and shut people down enough to where I can still roll, I can still train, and I can keep them from beating me up, and I don't have to play like a crazy Andrew Wiltsey buzzsaw passing game or anything like that. I'm not going to be doing that whenever I'm injured, for sure. But it still gives me the like training methadone.
Yeah. Well, this time, I mean, I've been really just getting back into the gym to do weights for the past month anyway. Again, pandemic, kind of stayed away from things. Get back to the gym. Both gyms, jiu-jitsu and weights. So I did go to the gym, and there were a handful of things that I couldn't do that I'd feel it. And if I really wanted to do it, if I put a little pressure on it and then do that exercise, put my hand over it, push in a little bit, do that exercise, I was okay. But I know that's a stupid way to do things. But I feel, man. I could still do the bike. I could do the elliptical. I could lift weights. I was able to do chest, tries, by all that stuff is okay. Just like back, any back exercises, that's when I'd start to feel it. So, but that's the promise that I'm making to myself, is that I'm just going to supplement. I'll do this while I can't do that, so I don't go back completely out of shape. I'll be picking people up and slamming them down when I go back. My technique will be out the window. But so let's talk. We didn't talk about Royce Gracie. I mean, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask. Who wouldn't love to say that they have their black belt under Royce Gracie? What's been your experience? I mean, do you get to train with him? Is it just kind of like we know the system where it's like he's your coach's coach, but have you had a chance to train with him and roll and learn from him?
Yeah. I mean, all of my my rank and pretty direct teaching as far as Gracie Jiu-Jitsu has come from Hoist. Like
Okay.
everything past blue belt has come from Hoist. I mean, I could consider that he's given me all my rank, but I do like to say that Elio gave me my blue belt because that was really
wow.
cool. So
That's awesome.
So like, every stripe, everything from Hoist though. And like I said, it wasn't ever easy. I never got to spend like extended periods of time, like training like directly under Hoist, but we would, for years and years, we would go everywhere that we could and spend as much time as we could around him and the family. And, so we learned a whole lot. In the early days, it was basically just, we would go to a seminar and maybe nothing else for like 2 months, but we would come back with that handful of techniques and just drill the hell out of those and get as good as we could with those things. And so, it allowed us to really focus and keep our focus pretty narrow. Because I think that, there's a good and bad thing about these days with people having, YouTube and people having like, I can, look up how to pass reverse de la worm guard and find 50 videos right now. So it's like, and why do I even need to know that when I'm a blue belt, so that kind of thing exists, and we didn't have that obviously. So it was a good and bad thing. It would have been nice to have resources more than we did, but it also kept us very focused in what we really needed to drill over and over again. So, but we got to be able to train with him more frequently, and eventually he started coming to us, whenever he could. Right now, we'll see him maybe a couple times a year. Like
Okay.
He'll come to a seminar here for us, or if he's nearby, we'll go see him or whatever. But yeah, I mean it's really cool. Because it's one of those things. He's an icon. I mean, he's a living legend, and that never really like goes away. I mean, sometimes we'll be sitting around and like a group of us and Hoist is in a group and we're talking and everybody's just being chummy and buddies and everything. And it just kind of hits you like, oh shit, that's Royce Gracie right there.
Yeah.
It's one of those things,
I experience that on a smaller scale now. I don't even know if it does justice to compare it, but when the people that I'm getting to talk to, you did something with you did some videos with Brendan McCaffrey, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yep.
To talk to be able to interview somebody like that, somebody like you, Jason Scully, people that I watch, I've had, I watch a video and then I'm like, yeah, grab your balls and ask him if he wants to come on the show. And that's what, and I've been doing that again. Thank you for coming on. But it's kind of crazy that now these people, like, I've exchanged messages with these people. I've asked these people questions about, the business of martial arts, about, jiu-jitsu in general. And it's kind of crazy. I couldn't imagine being in the same room or saying that I have my black belt from somebody like Hoist. Now I train out of Fight Sports in Coral Springs, and we have we have Cyborg, right? But yeah, awesome. I went to one of his seminars. He's been into our place, I think, really only once. Since we like move schools, and since I've been with them, he's been there once. But yeah, there's that connection. But it's like, I've learned everything from my coach. But my coach absolutely drives down to Miami, 3 or 4 times a week and goes and trains in that Miami facility with those monsters. Yeah, so that's
awesome.
So
that's a crazy environment, man.
Yeah, I've been down to Miami once for the seminar. I haven't gone down there to train. Now, if you watch it, the videos that you see for training are always like the black belt competition training. So if you see those, you'd look at it and go, geez, I started jiu-jitsu when I was 41. I'm going to be 47 in 2 months. So the idea of going down there and rolling with somebody like that, forget about my rib. I think I'm going to come out of there, full body cast. So
you don't want to start the open mat. And it's like, oh, here you're going to partner up with Wagner.
Yeah.
And,
that's kind of crazy, but again, this doing the podcast and this, now this connection to people like yourself and the Brandons of the world and the Jason Scullys of the world, all who have not only are well respected for their jiu-jitsu, but have turned this into a business for themselves. They make a living off of this. Brendan told me, he said one of the best things I ever did was pay for his cameraman to follow him around all day long in the gym. This is the best thing I did. He's just cutting content all day, and his stuff is gold. I love his 1-minute jiu-jitsu hacks. They're amazing.
Oh, dude. He kills the game on so many levels, man. I mean, his instruction, like, and that's a cool thing to see. I mean, because you can see different personality types and everything that are out there that have a big presence and they know how to make good videos, but they don't, you're like, their technique is, I mean, it is what it is, but with somebody like Brandon, like he's just so sharp and so precise. Like that dude is just, his IQ for jiu-jitsu is just off the charts. He sees so many details, and honestly, he's like just his martial arts aptitude in general. I mean, it's very awesome to be around somebody like that, man. Like I always kick myself, man. Every time I bring him up, I'm like, God, I got to get down there and see him again, man. He's, it's like I make so many freaking like excuses, not excuses at the time. I'm like, I don't have the time. I don't have the time for this, but I got to get down there because that dude, he's got a phenomenal environment, not just him, but the people around him. And the short time that I've been down there, man, it's always a great experience.
Yeah, he funny enough, like I said, I've had him on. He just, he's done his Not the BMAC show on YouTube, and I don't know if you've heard it or you've heard of it. He's doing a podcast with his wife now. It's
I've
like,
seen clips.
Yeah, Brandon and Lindsay have a podcast now, is what it's called. You know what? I listened to the first episode the other day. It's amazing. Because I'm really I've talked about trying to get my wife on the mat forever. She doesn't. She likes to do like kickboxing classes. She goes to a really cool, not like an I Love Kickboxing where it's just like, I call it dance fighting. She actually goes to it's a kickboxing gym, and they have those kind of classes, but it's also like, they do strength training and other things. I've tried to get her on the mat forever. Seeing his relationship with his wife, who's also a 10th Planet black belt, was amazing. And it actually, not just the martial arts side, but just their relationship. I took a lot away about the relationship of how two people can work together and not hate each other. Right. And there were a lot of good nuggets in there on the martial arts and the relationship side. So I definitely recommend it for anybody who hasn't seen it yet or heard it.
I've got to check that one out, man. I try to watch a lot of stuff that he puts out, whether it's his 1 minute hacks or it's his Not the BMAC show and the PGF that he's been doing, man. Like that's been awesome. Like I just recently started watching that, and because I've known some of the guys that have competed in it, and like it's well filmed, the structure of it, the way that everything from the rule set to just the structure of the event, very professionally done, man. I mean, it's excellent.
I think it's going to be big. I think it's going to blow up a lot. I know he's done the first 2 seasons. I'm not sure if he's going to do the third in his gym or if it'll grow. But I know I'm in his group. His actual, I think the group named after him. He's got like a smaller group, and you're seeing people asking about like, hey, how do I apply? Like you're starting, it's growing to that point. I see the messages come through every once in a while. I want to get a notification, and it's taking off. My coach freaking loves it. My coach is like, he's all about just everything, all things jiu-jitsu, and he's always just watch it. It was great. It's amazing. I've got to be on. I haven't watched it yet, only because like time. It's either work or I'm doing this. We're creating content, so it's hard to kind of check everything
out.
One,
man. I mean, it's really well done. I mean, I'd watch that just as, and it doesn't have. I mean, there are some, like, as far as the draw, like whatever you want to put stock into names of people or whatever, you don't, nobody's famous until they are. I mean, he's got some just killers in some of these events, man. Like some really good guys, experienced guys, really sharp technique. Like it's really awesome to watch. So I think that as the event grows and more people like kind of take note of it, and he's able to incentivize people even more and more to compete in it, because that's that's another thing about BMAC, man. It's like he believes in treating people right, from everything that I know about him, and so that's a really cool thing. And so I think that with something like his tournament, the bigger that it grows, the more people are going to see the benefit in competing in it too. So I hope it does, man. I hope it blows up for sure. Yeah,
you mentioned his kind of IQ, his martial arts and his jiu-jitsu IQ. It's amazing. I've seen him commentate on some combat jiu-jitsu stuff, and then I've seen him just talk about and commentate on his own stuff on like the PGF stuff, and it's amazing. And then his sense of humor on top of that, it makes it even more entertaining. It's just even that much more fun to watch. So I love watching this stuff. And again, absolutely. Going back to what I was saying before, it's like I've got him in my phone. I could reach out to, hey, Brandon, I need this, or hey, we'd like to do this, or come on the show again. And that's strange to me now. It's like, the people that have been part of this show, and it's just been crazy.
Dude, I'm the same way, man. Like I like it's bizarre for me because there's so many platforms now where you can talk to people. I was on the app Clubhouse. Like
Yeah.
somebody sent me an invitation to Clubhouse, and I went and dropped in a couple of those rooms just to see what was going on. And it was weird to see. I'm like, is that seriously Carlos Machado in this room? Like, is that really this guy? That's really these people? Like, they're in here just talking and, like, shooting the breeze and stuff. And yeah, I've met some really cool people in there, and people like that they knew who I was, and I was like, that's bizarre that you know who I am. Like, why am I even on your radar at all? Like,
you're on a lot of radars, Eli. We know
weird,
you.
Man. That's weird.
Have you competed in the past? You've done competitions?
Yeah, man. I think I'm trying to think. I was trying to think about this the other day. I was actually thinking about it today because my girlfriend, her first competition ever was today, this afternoon. And so like I was doing the rude thing, like picking up my phone during lessons and stuff to kind of see like updates and what I was showing, like everybody I did a lesson with today. I was like, oh, look, this is my girlfriend's competition. This is her first match,
How long has she been training?
A few years. She started off with more percussion arts. Like she's with a group called Fit to Fight, which I do a lot of work with. Really awesome group out of based in North Carolina, but they have like different affiliates all over the place. And so I've helped them with their jiu-jitsu program so that I kind of help design it. So I go to a lot of their facilities and do seminars and stuff too. But anyway, that's kind of how we met. Was I would go out there for some events, and so she started doing jiu-jitsu actually maybe about probably 3 years ago, kind of off and on, and has been really serious about it for the past, probably 1.5 2 years, more serious. But yeah, she's been doing that. But as far as me with competition, I think the last time I competed, it's maybe 4 or 5 years ago, maybe 4 years ago now. But yeah, I didn't I there wasn't a lot of competition in the area when I was like white and blue belt. But I still went and competed a little bit when I was a blue belt. Never had like great success in competition. I was like just very mediocre in competition. And then I never competed at purple belt. Didn't compete the entire time I was purple belt for years. And then when I got my brown belt, I was like, man, really wish I would have competed more. And so I started to like hit some more competitions when I was a brown belt. And I did better at brown belt than I did at any other belt. And then when I first got my black belt, I would compete more, but try to be like a little more selective. Like I was old, man. I mean, I'm old. So it's like, I didn't want to go do the all day tournaments and stuff, it's like, oh, you super fight. Yeah, I'll do that. Just like individual matches or whatever. Yeah, I'll go do some of those.
Would you feel like you have a little bit of a target on your back because of your reputation now in this world?
1,000%.
Yeah, right.
1,000%.
I don't that guy.
Dude, I want to visit so many more places that I don't visit. And part of the reason is like, first of all, like walking in anywhere with a black belt on, you got a target on you. Then you couple that with like the fact that, you've got a little bit of a YouTube following or something. And so everybody's got to be like, oh, this guy over here thinks he's hot shit, so we got to knock him down, or we got to come for him,
Yeah.
And then even if they don't recognize you, it's like, why do you have that weird blue sleeve on your black belt?
Yes. What is the blue? What does the blue mean? I googled that years ago and I couldn't find one thing. I couldn't find anybody that sold it. I didn't know what it was. What does the blue tip mean? Does it mean anything?
You still have to get them custom. Like you can't just buy them anywhere. Yeah. Well, basically, the only people who do that are Hoist and the Valencia brothers.
Okay.
So, I mean, they do that for their people. And basically, the easiest way to say it is like it's an homage to Eli Gracie. Okay. It's when, Hoist, if you look at Hoist now, he just wears that navy blue belt. He doesn't wear his old black belt with the stripes and everything, right?
I hadn't noticed at all.
Yeah. If you ever see Hoist these days, like he doesn't have a black belt on. He's got a navy blue belt and with his dad's name on it. And basically the idea was like, once his father passed away, he was like, well, I've only ever gotten rank from my father. I'm not who's going to give me rank now. So he just, back in the day, the story goes that there were 3 belts essentially, and it was a white belt for beginner student. It was a light blue belt for more intermediate to advanced student. And then there was a navy blue belt was the teacher. That was like the black belt, and that was the belt ranking. And so that's part of what it is part of why they restructured it that way. And the other part of it too is that Hoist is not the biggest fan of sport jiu-jitsu in the world. So it's a little bit in opposition to like the IBJJF conventions and stuff like that. And then the other part, let me think. Sometimes you would see Elio whenever he was in, when he was like in Brazil, especially, like he would be wearing a blue belt instead of his red belt. There's some pictures you'll find of him like wearing a blue belt. It's like, well, people were curious about what that was. And part of it was, it's like a soft protest. It was like a mild protest saying like, there were these people who were popping up and this black belt over here, this coral belt over here, and it was like, where are you guys getting your rank from? Like like, I don't know anything about you guys, speaking from Elio's point of view. And are you just like promoting yourselves? And what does that do to diminish the art and take the purity out of the ranking system and this and that? I don't know. It's kind of a long, complicated thing from my understanding of it. The easiest way to say it is just that it's an homage to Grandmaster Elio, and to also to emphasize that like Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, like from Hoist's paradigm, for the Belici brothers paradigm, is rooted in self-defense as a foundation before anything. And so that's kind of the long-winded answer. Okay. But that's the number one question that I get on anything. Like the number one question that it's guaranteed to be on any video I ever do in the gi. Why is the tip, the bar, the sleeve, the point, whatever they call it, why is that blue? So.
I remember looking it up years ago, couldn't find anything, and then not that I was going to buy one or anything, but I'm like, all right, let me see who sells it and see what they say it means. And I didn't know that, man. That's great to know. You're an insider, so I don't think anybody else would have even known that answer.
Yeah, it's a rare thing. I keep meaning to make. I've never made a video just addressing that on my channel, but it'd be nice to have, because I remember when I did a video with Chewy years back, and he asked me. It was me and a buddy of mine, both were here, and we're both black belts, and so we had the blue sleeves on, and he asked us that on one of his videos, and so sometimes I'll find that one just to have the link ready whenever somebody asks it, and just like, here's the link, here's the whole discussion if you want to look at it.
So I know you've done some stuff with Chewy too, and we're talking about somebody who goes out there and does, who still competes. I saw them throwing Chewy's name out there to fight Gordon Ryan the other day. Talk about that. Talk about a target. But really. He's still out there competing, and again, he's one of the guys that made me think about that. I'm like, he's got to go out there, got to like really be ready, because people just because of the name, they want to really, they want to make a name for themselves by beating somebody like that.
And kudos to him, man, because he not only competes, he competes at extremely high level, and he does extremely well. And like Chewy's a monster, man. Like, cause it's people like to ask like ridiculous questions and stuff, and they're like, yeah, so who wins if you and Chewy roll? And I'm like, first of all, even if it doesn't even matter that he's like quite a bit bigger than I am, like, and stronger and younger. None of that even matters. Technically, he's just better. Like, he's like, I have very little ego when it comes to admitting like realistically what my ability is in jiu-jitsu. I can teach stuff pretty well. I can put stuff together pretty well. I can convey some information. I'm a decent coach, pretty good teacher, but I'm not going to compete with somebody like Chewy, not these days, probably not ever. But Chewy did the same thing the other day. Like you said, somebody was saying, oh yeah, well, Gordon can't get any matches. Chewy, why don't you and Gordon go? And he posted a response to it. He's like, Gordon would kill me. Like, Gordon would demolish me. Like, there's levels to this stuff, man. Yeah. There's levels to it. It's like, and that's what's difficult whenever the conversation always comes back to like ranking. It's like, who deserves this belt or that belt? What do you have to be able to do before you get your purple? If you're a brown belt and you got tapped by a blue belt, does that mean you should be demoted? It's like, there's so many questions and so many things like people like to conjecture about, but there's a lot of criteria that goes into, I think, what ranking really means. Yeah. But it's difficult whenever it's such a performance-based martial art, because jiu-jitsu is, more than almost anything else, it's like jiu-jitsu is a very performance-based martial art. So people like to just kind of get hung up on that, but it's like, you can remind them, it's like, man, you can take some of the best black belts in the world and put them up against Hoffa Mendez, and they're going to look like they never trained a day in their life.
Yeah. So what do so yeah, I mean, you're not going to demote that guy back to blue belt, Right. So I know my coach always says for every level, there's another level, and, and I take that to, again, starting as an older guy, coming back again after the pandemic is a really good example. I show up and there's a sea of young white belts, and I say young, 20s, built, like this guy definitely lifts weights when he's not here. I came back to just this, again, a huge amount of adult male white belts who came in, looking for something to do while we were out, again, nursing the knee, and then, hey, am I going to train? Am I not? And, to train with these guys, the spazzy white belt's bad enough. A spazzy white belt who's really stronger than you.
Yep.
That's a dangerous, Or
you get a proficient wrestler in there that's like, he's
got one of those.
Day one in jiu-jitsu, like ignore the 8 years of wrestling.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. And those guys, if again, especially coming off of the injury, some of those guys, put it on me. I was like, oh man, I got to get my cardio back. I got to get kind of my, it's like riding a bike. I get it. But at the same time, I was like, geez, these guys, man, what happened? What are they feeding these guys? Completely part of my motivation to get back in the gym. I left, I weightlifted for a long time before I ever got into martial arts. And then I guess like everyone, you start doing martial arts and it's like, do I go to the gym or do I go to a jiu-jitsu class? And I started to slowly fade away from the weights. But now I feel like there has to be a happy medium, especially those guys have taught me like, you better keep your strength up. So you get older, you're going to get weaker, you better maintain. So credit to them for helping me get back in the gym. But some of these guys, we have a wrestler. We have a wrestler that came in and he's a white belt. And funny enough, he had to move and he's training at Wagner's. He's training at Wagner's now, and he comes to our open mats every once in a while. I'm like, oh God, now a wrestler training under Wagner, and then he's coming back to my gym to do open mats once in a while. I'm like, oh man. But if I had to compare myself to those guys, what are you going to demote me? Those guys are going to come up and he's going to be stronger at blue belt than I ever was, and he's going to be a better purple belt than I was. He's going to be there younger if he stays healthy. So what does that mean for my standing? If a guy like that taps me out, am I no longer a purple belt? Or when I get to brown, am I not a brown belt? Like again, it's a merit-based system, but at the same time, you put in your time. You don't necessarily have to beat the youngest and the strongest to get that promotion. I don't think a lot of people think of it that way. I see faces sometimes at promotions and somebody might be like, really? They're getting their purple belt, Right. And I'm like, really? What? They've got a whole different journey than you. They train different times. They've got to work harder than you maybe, but it's a strange environment. I remember our coach one time actually had a little speech that says, understand when I do give belts and I give stripes, everybody is their own person. I'm judging them on them. I'm not judging them on, well, you tapped them all the time last week. So what? You've been at blue belt for a year. What, you think you're getting your purple belt now because you tapped that person who's about to get promoted? It's kind of a little weird, but I think that's, I think when you get around to purple belt and you're on the cusp of brown, you start to let all that ego stuff go. And I think a lot of that goes away. You start going, okay, this isn't, I had
you start to be a little bit more lenient, I think, with your judgment of other people as well. And it's like, it's one of those things too, the way that you said your coach said it, that's a lot in line with my feeling about it. I do think that it needs to be, performance based to a degree. It has to be about your technical knowledge, about your ability to convey the knowledge, to apply it and everything else. But I think a big part of it is about personal development. Mm-hmm. And what has training in jiu-jitsu done for you? As a person. I mean, when you walked in, what were you like versus what you are now because of what jiu-jitsu has done to you? And I think, so I guess, that personal development, being an ambassador for the art, it should be considered in the factors of ranking as well.
Yeah. You are did I read somewhere you're a graphic designer as well, or at least you do all your own stuff? Are you a graphic designer by kind of like by trade? Is that something that you wanted to do?
Yeah, it's kind of accidental. Like I was always into art, and when I went to college, I was in art stuff all my life. When I went to college, I wanted to go in for commercial art first. Well, first it was fine art, then commercial art. I got kind of jaded with a lot of the art program stuff, and everyone was trying to move me into doing computer aided drafting, computer aided graphic design, stuff like that. And I didn't want to do it. And so I kind of went with my backup of writing and technical writing and English and literature, all that kind of stuff. And that's what I wound up going more into. And then it kind of circled back around to where in doing that, I had to take a lot of document design classes for professional writing courses. And then I had to learn graphic design software as part of the document design and layout courses. And so it's like, I'm not getting away from this, so I might as well embrace it. So I wound up doing graphic design and getting a degree that was heavy into graphic design. And then, I still do some stuff with it today, to these days. And like I've done a lot, especially right out of college and for years. So
you do most of your own editing and design for your channel and for your own stuff.
Yeah, begrudgingly. I wish I'd love to have somebody do it for me, but
I've got a bow. I've got a bow. I've got a producer Bo that he's a graphic designer and a videographer, and I'm lucky to have him. I couldn't do this stuff by myself. I mean, recording just on the screen like this or something, was never what I wanted to do as part of the podcast. But we had worked together previously, and I'm a
pixel engineer.
He's a genius. He's great at this stuff, man. So I'm lucky to have him. But let's get into some listener questions here. You saw me posting on some of these. We talked about this a little bit before we came on. All right, so one of them in here I think is from a kid, and you'll know which one it is. But got some general questions and some kind of funny ones I think too. Okay, so it says, my question is, I haven't trained in about a year because of my busy work schedule, and I'm wanting to go back this coming month. He's got a set work schedule now, so now he's able to go back. I kind of just vanished from training without saying goodbye when he stopped going. He says, I had such a great experience at my gym, more than any other gym that I've been to. Would it be okay for me to just pop back in, or should I call and ask for permission to come back in? So you're a coach. How would you handle that? How would you like your student to handle that?
Yeah, man, I see that's so particular to the environment, the training environment. Yeah. If it were me and I hadn't, somebody just like kind of ghosted and I hadn't heard from them or anything else, usually my first instinct is, kind of concerned. I'm like, what happened or whatever. So if they just pop back in and show up I've had that happen multiple times this year, especially because of this last year. But like, when I see somebody pop in that I haven't seen in months or years, then I'm like, this is awesome. That's great, man. How you been? Like jump on in. I'm glad you're back. I think probably that's going to be the case most places. I think that it'd be pretty shitty of somebody to be like, well, you've been gone this whole time. I think that maybe it's not the best thing for you to just jump back in. I can't imagine that really happening in a decent environment. If you're training somewhere like that, then that might be a problem.
Might be the wrong gym.
But I mean, I don't think if you're on the fence about it, if you're curious and uncertain, then just talk to your instructor and be like, explain the situation. And, it's a gym, it's a family, it's a community for the most part, everywhere is. And it's also a business, they're not gonna turn you down for that reason alone. So I think just call and have that conversation would be.
Hell, if I walked into the gym after being out and they weren't coming up to me trying to give me a hug, I would say you're probably in the wrong gym. Open arms, looks, unless you did something stupid and then kind of ghosted because you fucked up, you did something weird or stupid, then I could see them coming back on, let's why don't you come on the weekend and we'll talk a little bit about you when you're going to start, something like that. But I would kind of feel like if they gave me a little bit of attitude, I think you're in the wrong gym. It should be, full embrace. Come on, get on the mat. Where's your gi? Throw your gi on. Get on. You're late. Let's go. Let's do this. Mm-hmm. So, okay. So and I always like to give a shout out to that was from @buds_G70 on Instagram. So now we have Sully's underscore, Sully's underscore son. What's your, this is funny. I thought this was a little funny, but I'm going to throw it in. What's your thoughts on using a heel hook in a street fight?
I did a whole video about that.
Yeah. Did you? Yeah.
Yeah. I did that's one of the very few just talking videos I ever did because I've had people ask me that a lot before. man, in a street fight, anything's on the table. I wouldn't. Now, if you say, what's your opinion of pulling single leg X and setting up, trying to get to the saddle and getting a heel hook in a
don't do that.
Yeah.
Not on the street.
Maybe not your primary strategy. Maybe not the best idea. But I mean, obviously, if you get into, street fights are prone to get into clinches and grappling positions and to go to the ground. Oftentimes, we can argue about what's the percentage that goes to the ground.
Yeah.
But man, anything's on the table to get you out of that. And I think that, it's a tactic. It's a tactic, and it's a solution for, that particular situation. And I have friends. I mentioned like my experience in doing that, and it was a stupid backyard kind of fight thing, and I actually did that on somebody that, we're actually friends, but we got into a fight. It's a stupid story anyway. But I did that, and I popped his ankle pretty good. And so it's like, but I mean, we were fighting, but
yeah.
And then I have a couple other people that I've talked to over the years that just instinctively went there. They got knocked down, and they got a leg presented to them within proximity, and they just, that's what they knew to do. And they just went for it. And, it worked out favorably in their situation. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that anytime you speak in absolutes, it's like, oh, never do this or always do that. You're getting yourself into some trouble. The context dictates everything. And again, I wouldn't recommend like necessarily intentionally going to the ground in a street fight, but you've got to do what keeps you safe and get yourself out of that as unscathed as possible, and eliminate the at least threat, You
don't want to be pulling guard in the middle of the street.
Not necessarily.
Maybe on the grass, but I don't even think that's a good idea. Somebody's friend stomps you in the face.
Yeah, dude. There's so many things.
You even answered the second part. He had a follow up there. Have you ever been in a street fight? If yes, what technique did you use? So you did say you used that on your friend.
You're right. Yeah. I mean, it's like, again, it was not the most street of street fights.
What a great friend you are, Eli.
Yeah, no, that's like the king of dick moves, man.
I want to throw in here listen, I've gotten into my share of really stupid fights. I'm not proud of it. First of all, walk away. I believe he's a younger guy. Listen, walk away. There's no, we do jiu-jitsu to protect ourselves. We don't necessarily want to be starting fights. If you have to, protect yourself or defend yourself or your family or even your friends, that's one thing. But first of all, let's not get into any street fights. And then again, second, like I said, you probably don't want to be pulling guard. If you're in a heel, like you said it the right way, you said, if it's presented to you, I'm not dropping on the ground to try to, to search for a heel, especially in a street fight, especially with other people around. You got one idiot friend, if drinking's involved, or you just got some dumb kid decides to stomp you on your face, and now you could have 3 or 4 guys kicking you and beating you up, and now
absolutely
you're in a worse place. But walk away.
I would say though, if you are going to use a heel hook in a street fight, just make sure they're not wearing a gi, because that's unforgivable. That's
the unwritten rule, isn't it? Right? Isn't that the unwritten rule? So. There's actually a really popular video. I don't want to say famous. There was a really popular video of a bunch of guys playing basketball. Like it was in an inside a gym. They're playing basketball. Do you remember that? And then I don't know if he fell to the ground, I guess. And he's got this guy in his sneakers and in a heel hook, and he's like, "You're gonna stop?" He's like, "You're gonna stop?" Like he didn't wrench. He didn't try to tear his knee apart. He gave him a chance, and I think they wound up breaking it up. But that video that I'm talking about. Right?
Yeah, I mean, and if you watch that whole video too, they got into it, and the guy, I think he took him down. They fell down somehow. He either took him down or whatever. That guy transitioned like from back to arm bar to something else, and finally wound up on that heel hook. Yeah. And I mean, that heel was not going anywhere. He was in some high top basketball shoes. Like you're not getting that heel back, man. Like if he wanted to rip that thing, he would have ripped that.
All right. So we go to our next question at Sean Duris. I think I'm saying that right. On Instagram. Eli's videos are so super popular and convey a lot in a short format. What's the secret for creating relevant content in a market flooded with competition?
Man, dude, I don't know, man. Like luck, like a lot of luck.
The guys on this side of the screen, the guys over here look at you like, wow, you've got it all figured out. Yeah,
right.
like, look what you did.
It's hilarious, man. Like I have people, and I always try to answer the best I can whenever somebody's like, hey, what do you do? How do you do what you do? How can I grow my YouTube channel? How can I grow my account or whatever this? I'm like, bro, just like do what you do and then get real lucky. Like, that's all I know. But, I know certain things, I know certain behind the scenes kind of like what you're supposed to do to optimize your video, as far as like the information to put into it, how the algorithms kind of treat things, whatever. But, man, as far as like the content itself, why anything that I might do might be attractive to anyone. First of all, I think that, I don't typically show a lot of like super wild, crazy stuff. I show stuff that, and the way that I do it, it's pretty obvious that almost anyone can do it. I'm not a super athletic person. I'm not anything physically special about me. So I think everybody sees that they could probably do what I do. I also, like to contextualize things and make the context really clear. Is this a self-defense move, or is this a sport move? Where are you going to use this? How are you going to use this? There's not a lot of people who still talk about the self-defense in videos anymore. And I like to mention that, at least sometimes. I do more stuff that I would consider more submission grappling based rather than self-defense, but I do have a ton of content out on self-defense stuff. And a lot of instructionals for sale. And but
BJJ Fanatics.
Yeah. And, but as far as I think the biggest thing that maybe is attractive about my videos to people, I don't spend a ton of time on long-winded intros. I watch some videos sometimes, and like 6 minutes in, the dude's still talking about setting the technique up, and I'm like, man, get to it. Everybody's gonna skip past that. People are gonna fast forward.
He's got a really good point there. A lot of people make that mistake with videos. They just get too long-winded with the setup.
Yeah.
Make it quick and get into the point. Yeah.
Love him to death. I think he's amazing. I got a John Danaher video for free. Now, this is the truth. So this is my first BJJ Fanatics video ever. I've just always gone to YouTube for my stuff. So got an email and get this free. So I got his free solo drill. This was like at the beginning of the pandemic. And I was like, okay, I guess I'll use this when the knee heals up. What could I be doing? And I just started watching it the other day. I never even opened it. And it's like the first two videos, it's all him talking. It was great information. It's incredible information. And I like to hear it. I'm okay with, but I was like, is this all? Is it going to be all talk? Because I get, again, I'm not used to the structure yet. So it's like video 1, video 2, video 3. So it just goes on, it goes on to the next subject because it's a new video. So I'm just like, is this what the whole thing is going to be like? And he finally got into some, some positional stuff.
Absolutely. I was watching his headlocks video, like his front headlocks. And again, great information. But if you want to listen to something and to make yourself fall asleep to get better rest, he's got the perfect voice for it.
Reading bedtime stories.
And again, there's probably not very many more brilliant minds on the planet as far as comes to jiu-jitsu, and absolute golden information with everything he says. But damn, it's that accent, that cadence, that measure of tone and everything else that he's talking in. And it's just like, I'm getting drowsy before I can even get to the technique,
Yeah.
I've got, now me on the other hand, like I get going, a funny comment on a few of my recent videos from different people. It was really funny. It was like, this guy sounds like Vince Vaughn. And I was like, I never would have thought that, never heard it. But then I started watching the video, and when I get going fast on something and I start talking really quickly, I was like, oh damn, I hear it. I see what they're talking about. But it's that thing again. It's like, I know what my attention span is. And plus you're watching a YouTube video. You didn't buy this. If you get one of my longer instructionals, I'm not going to have the same cadence and the same sense of urgency.
You're trying to get it done a little bit more quickly when it's a video. Yeah.
Yeah. Even when I screw up and make a 20-minute video, like the last one I just put out, it's like, I try to get it done, get it out there quickly. And, it's a video. This is a video. I'm not going to convey the information to you through a video medium the same as I would person to person or in a group or whatever. So you just kind of have to know understand the medium. I think if you watch my old videos, which I don't recommend anyone doing for any reason, like my old damn.
This is not good
videos.
Self-promotion, Eli. This is not good self-promotion.
Dude, you can ask my girlfriend how good of a self-promoter I am. I suck at it. But it's if you watch those, it's just atrocious. I keep them up just for posterity, but it's like I look back at them and I'm like, oh my God, like there was no energy. There was no excitement, no enthusiasm behind it. It's just like, hey, I'm going to show a technique. Here you go. And it was just
robo-jiu.
I'm like, no wonder.
I'm not going to, I've watched a lot of your stuff at, I'll always go back and I'm one to see when was this recorded? Like how long ago? Because now, like we're in the biz now. So like how many views? How long ago? Oh, wow. Look at, hundreds of thousands of views. And well, how long has that been out? I'm always curious. So now
18 years.
Yeah, I look at it like that now. So, but I've never seen a video that I've been like, oh, that was a snooze fest, or wow, I wish you would have done that. So I think you're judging yourself a little too harshly. Your content's good, and I mean, it's. I think we all judge ourselves probably more critically than we, than the rest of the world is. I when it comes to jiu-jitsu, at least, it's like, I do want to see the technique on a Danaher video, though. If I'm putting together the visual. And with the listening, if he wants to be long-winded, that's great, but be showing me something while you're doing it. Right. I could take the long-winded, but I mean, listen, who wouldn't love to be locked in a room with him for a few hours and just absorb that knowledge, and whether it was showing you technique or not, just I learned a lot even from just listening to him, and a lot of his I like watching his interview videos, and when he's done podcasts and things like that, the info that he gets. One of his most when I really was like, this guy's a freaking genius. When he was on Rogan and he broke down the video with Gordon and Cyborg. And he broke it down by like the millisecond, like where he was like, Jamie, bring it back a tenth of a second, That's that was really I knew of him, but again, being just into the jiu-jitsu world, and I'm watching this and I'm like, this guy is freaking amazing. Like, talk about breaking down a video. That was amazing. And then from there, it's like, then I got my education. And I think we all did once Gordon Ryan started to become Gordon Ryan. It's like, oh, now you can't. Sure. This is the guy behind. And that's the ball guy behind Gordon every time he's winning, right? So, but it's
funny, just to throw back to a previous question. It's like, who do you think at top tier black belts, like who do you think that John Danaher could tap? Probably, I don't think a lot of people. Like, I don't think he's going to be competing in the elite echelon of. And this is because the reason I bring this up is because of the question about when we were discussing ranking, like who deserves this rank or that rank, and it's like there you have probably one of the most brilliant jiu-jitsu minds on the planet, but he's not going to tap Gordon. Yeah, he's not going to tap who else. So does that disqualify him from having substantial rank in jiu-jitsu? So that's one of those extremes too. But
I think Gordon's talked about, he says, when I do roll with John, it's complete flow rolling. There's no, he's not trying to kill me. It's always a flow roll. He's talked about that. Sure. On the other side of that, I mean, listen, he's an older guy. He's an older guy with really bad knees. I think he also has a back problem, but I know his knees are like really shot. Did he have like a hip replacement?
He's got hip replacement. His knees are jacked up. But it's exactly that. And I mean, and that's the thing. And that's not to say that he isn't completely physically capable of a lot of amazing things too. But my only reason I'm bringing that up is just to say, for the other extreme of that, if someone out there is wanting to say this person over here is not black belt level because they can't tap this person over here, that's the height of the fallacious argument, because you have people like that. So.
Do you are you a fan of like the company? We've talked about sport. You mentioned sport versus self-defense jiu-jitsu a few times. Are you a fan of anything like the flow grappling stuff? Do you watch competitions? Do you know these young guys? Do you watch this stuff?
Yeah, I try to keep up. I mean, I probably couldn't tell you, who's what the rankings of the, like rooster weight brown belt world rankings are right now.
Oh, forget it. We're done. Cut.
Yeah. But it's I watch a lot of the fight to wins. I watch a lot of the WNOs. I love the WNOs.
Yeah, those are great.
EBI. Anytime there's an EBI, whether it's combat jiu-jitsu or just, well, there hadn't been an EBI in a while besides combat jiu-jitsu, but I love that rule set. I love that approach. I even watch the Submission Underground. You know, I mean, like the Submission Underground has some good ones sometimes because they've adopted that EBI rule set. ADCC, of course. I was bummed that there wasn't an ADCC this year, but the one previous was amazing. You know, but yeah, I don't. The one I probably watch the least is IBJJF. Just I don't know. Like I'll watch the people who I know. You know, some of the big names. I'll catch a match after the fact, but I don't go out of my way to watch it live or anything like that.
Yeah.
So
like blue belts are on.
Yeah. Right. Yes. On mat 3, there's some really sharp green belts.
It's this last year. It's really new to me, that side of this world.
Mm-hmm.
We started working with one organization, just kind of doing some trade and stuff and reposting and helping each other out. And I discovered that whole side. You know, I knew it was there, but didn't pay a lot of attention to it. And now I've like slowly getting into it. And, you know, actually been, you know, next week we have, our next 2 episodes are 2 female competitors, Kendall Rusing and Elizabeth Clay. They're both they're both coming on. We'll record separate episodes with them, but both next week. So awesome. Yeah, now that side is kind of like we're really kind of, you know, I like having I like to get both sides of it. We've had police officers come on, we've had veterans come on, and you know now we just kind of falling in love with that side. There's always a big UFC fan. Mm-hmm. You know, that was you know, I before I was ever doing jiu-jitsu, I was watching UFCs and boxing when I was a kid. So kind of love that competition side of things. Yeah, and to discover this world, you know, I think I'm learning kind of like you said, like WNO, who's number one is starting to be like one of my favorites.
Yeah.
I don't love when it's called, you know, submission only, and then there's a ref's decision. I kind of want to see the submission. Let me see the submission. I don't want to. If this is sub only, let's make the fights longer. Let's do something to let's get the sub. And hats off to all the organizations that are doing stuff. I think, you know, everybody brings something to the world of jiu-jitsu, and I love it. But when I see somebody stalling because if they get past this time, you know, then the first sub wins, the first point wins, you know.
Right, they had they had the most submission attempts, and that's the only criteria that they're going off of, like with the fight to wins. Which again, like what Seth has done with the fight to wins, like that, it's a great thing. It's awesome, and it's one of the better rule sets. So there's just no perfect rule set.
Yeah.
Submission only is flawed. You know, like points are flawed. You know, people using advantages, but then to take away advantages. All you're doing is just making the advantages invisible. A lot of the time, there's organizations that don't do the advantages, and it's like, but in your head, you're giving that person aggressiveness points, or you're giving that person a near submission attempt. So there's no perfect rule set. So I think that people need to they need to love it for what it is and not hate it for what it's not. Kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a good way to put it. How do you feel about the rule changes with the IBJJF? The heel hooks and kind of the leg stuff now. Any thoughts on that?
I mean, it's cool. Like I thought they should have allowed heel hooks forever ago.
Okay.
I'm fine. I'm fine with them not putting heel hooks in the gi. And I see some of the logic behind the knee reaping stuff. Other parts of it just doesn't make any sense. Some of the stuff you can do that is way more dangerous than a heel hook, I mean, so it's just kind of flawed. A lot of the times these rules get into place for really stupid reasons and then they never leave, And so it's nice to see them having some leniency. Now, having said that, I kind of looked through some of the guidelines of what can be done as far as like how you can do heel hooks, and it's kind of weird. Like it's basically like, okay, we're gonna allow this new one thing, and now here's 50 new rules around this new one thing. So I don't know. It's just it hurts my head, and I get bored trying to learn all that stuff.
Yeah.
So.
All right, Eli. We've got one last round of we again. I always call it a speed round. I got just kind of a list of questions. I'll let you just answer. I won't kind of chime in too much and give you my take, but got about 7 or 8 questions, and we'll just go through them real quick, okay? All right, so go-to sub. What's your go-to submission?
Man.
Or favorite?
My favorite probably bow and arrow choke, if it's in the gi. If it's no gi, probably still some kind of choke, man. I mean, like I like Darces a whole lot. I like arm triangles,
Okay.
I love leg locks. I'm not the best leg locker in the world. So, I'll hit them and stuff, but I couldn't really call them my favorites. So.
Okay. Go-to takedown.
Pull guard. No.
Yeah, the first to say that.
yeah. I'm sure. Yeah. Like for collar drags and arm drags.
Okay.
Like, that's probably my thing is collar drags and arm drags, depending on gi or no gi. I'm not above shooting like a low inside single or a sweep single. Like that's the extent of my shooting ability these days.
Yeah.
But I can go for like a low single, but yeah, collar drags and arm drags are usually my go-to.
Okay. All right. Other than achieving the rank of black belt, which obviously you have, what is your ultimate goal in jiu-jitsu?
Ultimate goal in jiu-jitsu, just teach more, man. Teach more, bigger, like better, everything. Like get more stuff out there and get around to more places. And I don't know. I love the teaching part. I love sharing. I'd rather say sharing than teaching, but just do what I'm doing, just on a bigger scale.
Cool. What would you be doing if you hadn't found martial arts? Man,
I think I'd be real unhealthy because like that would be really easy for me. I'd probably be smoking. I would probably smoke cigarettes. Like I'd be pretty well. Yeah, these days I'd be pretty fat. I'd be pretty like just eat whatever. I mean, like I don't have the best diet in the world, but like I know how I feel when I eat crap, so I would just be gross, man. Like I think. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I would have found something else, but like I said, I was never really an athlete. Yeah. I might have other things that I would do in positive ways, like do art more often and stuff. And
you would be into bird watching, bro. Bird watching, or
it might be something random like that. Yeah, I'd be into quilting. Yeah.
A professional crappie fisherman.
Yeah.
All right. Next question is, what's the craziest thing that's ever happened to you in competition on the mats or even in your gym? Craziest thing that's ever happened?
Oh, man. Let's see. Craziest thing that's ever happened.
I'll give you like seeing broken hands, somebody threw up or next, in somebody's guard, crazy things like that.
I've had a couple different kids poop. Yeah, that was rough. I had a class of like 25 kids one time, teaching them by myself and doing just the warm-ups. And this kid, he was kind of he was kind of on the spectrum already, and like I just saw this look on his face, and I'm like, that doesn't look good. Like there's something going on here. And like we're kind of doing some warm-ups and stuff. Oh yeah, dude. And it was like this, I saw something roll out of the bottom of his gi pant, and I was like, oh, there's
it's
only
Mr. Hanky.
Yes. But yeah, probably the craziest thing that's happened to me personally was getting choked out in front of Hoist, Horian, and Grandmaster Elio. Like all three of them. I got choked straight out in front of them when I was a white belt, and we were at a camp. And I hooked up with this guy who, and I use this as a cautionary tale a lot of the times to tell people about, position before submission, but that doesn't mean the other person has to follow the same rule. because like as soon as we hooked up, this guy jammed his hands in for a cross collar choke, like just lightning fast when we started out, and I had to pull back to guard, and I remember getting him inside my closed guard and thinking, okay, well, at least I've got closed guard now, so he's going to let go because I've got the better position. And then I woke up and
you were telling yourself that as the room was getting darker and darker.
Yeah.
Little green
that was the first time I've been choked unconscious too, and it was the worst environment. Like because I woke up and Hoist's wife is holding my feet up. And like I'm looking up and I'm seeing like
halfway down
and Grandmaster Elio's looking over at me and Hoist is looking. I'm like, oh my god, like this is I died and went to hell. This is hell.
This is jiu-jitsu hell.
This is jiu-jitsu hell. That's the most embarrassing thing that ever happened to me. So,
all right. So, what's your biggest regret as it relates to jiu-jitsu?
Man, I got a lot. Like if I really thought about it, I have a lot of them, but I try not to dwell on them too much. I just try to do better. I think, I probably would have competed more in hindsight. I would have like gone through a little more pains to compete a lot more at certain belts than I did because, I really tried to play catch up at brown and black belt. I competed quite a bit more in the early days of brown and black, but like when I was younger, I would have probably like tried to travel a little bit more, spend more extended periods of time training in certain places than I did. And there's things that I would have trained in different ways too. But I don't know, man, I could come up with a billion of these things, but I try to minimize my thoughts about it these days,
Yeah. All right. This is the big one. This is the drum roll, please question. All right, this is we have a lot.
I was going to say you got to have a drum roll effect in there, right?
Yeah, right. No, these don't. I don't have a drum roll.
That's
I don't have a drum roll. That might be a new one. We have again. Look, the pandemic turned us into a more of an interview style of a podcast where we would normally have a round table of people, many as 4, 5, even 6 people, sitting around in a room talking about jiu-jitsu. That's how the podcast started. But we've always had this debate.
Okay.
Do you wash your gi belt?
Yes.
Yes, I do. Team wash your belt.
Ding, ding, ding.
Hashtag team wash your belt.
Here's why. Why wouldn't you wash your belt? That's the question I always toss back at people because it's an old tradition, right? And the old tradition was, well, if you wash it, you like artificially damage it. And if you have a frayed, torn up belt, then you're supposed to look cooler, I guess, when your belt's all frayed and gnarly. And I've had some that look like that. My brown belt was jacked. My purple belt was jacked looking, but that's cool for something like karate, like where, but we're doing jiu-jitsu. If your belt doesn't get frayed and worn out and stuff because you're rolling on the ground and you're like rolling with people constantly and getting all this friction and scouring of this thing, then you're doing something wrong anyway. So like, it's not like as big of a badge of honor to have a frayed belt in jiu-jitsu, in my opinion, as it is in other martial arts, because I don't understand how the hell some of these karate masters have these like frayed, like just ragged belts and stuff. I'm like, I don't know how that happens. Honestly, I get how we
don't wash at home. Yeah.
I think somebody's dragging their belt behind their car or something, but yeah, man, I mean, it's just gross not to. I don't wash it I don't wash it like as frequent as my gi or anything like that, because it doesn't get that gross. But dude, I mean, there's some nasty stuff on the mats,
I mean, given the last year, if people don't change their attitude about it a little bit, given the last year of Corona, I think it's a little nasty. I've smelled the occasional belt that's like, wow, what is that smell? And it's the belt. I tell everybody, I wash it. I these days if I train, I wash it. The townhouse that I'm in, we're kind of between. We're waiting to move into our house. It's being built, so we're in a townhouse now, and the washing machine is in the garage downstairs. So when I come in, I just throw my gi, and my belt on the floor, and then I'll usually take a shower, come back down, and then throw it in the wash with whatever I had on underneath, my rash guard and whatever. So now I wash it every time. Normally though, when I was training 3 times a week, 4 times a week, and it was just piling up the gis, and then I'd wash them all at once. Right. The belt would go in. When I washed everything together, I'd just throw it in. Now it's just because of the setup, and I walk in, I throw it down there, and I just throw it in right away. That's just me. Yeah. But I do. Yeah, I've always washed it. I've heard like you want it to fray from training and not from the wash. Then there's I want a molecule of every. Chris Howder said this jokingly on was it the Roll documentary? I think maybe it's
probably Roll SoCal or something.
Yeah, it was one of the documentaries about jiu-jitsu where he kind of says it at the end, but then he makes fun of it a little bit. He's like, I believe you should have like one molecule. I think it's him that says it, like one molecule from everybody you've ever fought. But then again, you could just wash it, and and it's not washing away your skill.
You could just request a skin sample, from everyone you roll with.
It's pretty. You probably do it. If you haven't washed it, you have it already. But yeah, I mean, I think everybody has their own take on it. I just think it's nasty, and it's like Again, as I get older, it's just cleanliness. It's nothing more than that. I don't care. I've never looked at anybody and said, "Oh wow, look at how frayed his belt is. His jiu-jitsu must be so much better." He could train more. It doesn't mean it's better. He just maybe trains more.
That's the whole thing, man. And it's just like cauliflower ears. I mean, you can probably then you see somebody with a frayed belt, they're probably put in a lot of time and they're probably pretty good. But just like you see somebody with cauliflower ears and you're like, oh man, I bet that does that immediately make them a badass that they got cauliflower ears? No. Like I've seen too many videos of high school wrestlers like sitting there trying to give themselves cauliflower ears so they can look like a badass. It's like it's correlation is not causation in that sense at all. And get multiple belts. I have like 3 belts. So, I mean, none of my belts are that frayed. I've got one that's got a little bit of wear on it, but I mean, I alternate them out, I'll wash them and whatever. But if one of them starts getting too beat up, then I'm probably going to get another one. I mean, just because, and it's different with black belt too. I mean, because, you're going to be in black belt longer than any other belt, hopefully. Yeah. But, I don't know. It's weird.
Well, Eli, we're going to wrap it up here. Stick around, though. We're not going to let you go completely after we say goodbye here, but appreciate the time. Appreciate you coming on. It's been an honor to have you. Again, you've been a big part of my journey and a lot of people listening. But I want to give you a second. You have any sponsors, anybody you work with that you want to shout out, anything coming up, any of your BJJ Fanatics videos that you want to tell people to buy? This is your time. Go.
Yeah, man. Let's see. As far as like sponsor things, I probably shouldn't plug CBD on it. So that you're sponsored by a CBD company.
That's okay. But I'm with, give them a shout out.
Well, I'm with YMCBD. YMCBD is pretty awesome too. They've got some really good products and stuff. But my key sponsor is the Firma Kimono Company. And let's see. As far as instructionals, Budo Brothers. If you go to the Budo Brothers website, it's called Jiu Jitsu Deep Dive, and that's probably my most comprehensive thing that I've done. It's beautifully shot, and it's a huge volume of like 6 hours of like Jiu Jitsu stuff, and it's quite a bit of technique. And then I've got like 5 different instructionals over at BJJ Fanatics on different topics, typically centered around self-defense, but stuff that's pretty applicable across the board. And so let's see what else. Oh, my newest instructional. Dang, I always forget that. Apathy Control. Like Apathy Control is available over at Because Jitsu's website. It's because-jitsu.com. And Drew has an amazing site, amazing presence and everything. And he's got some instructionals on there. My newest one is called Apathy Control. And check that out too.
All right.
Probably missing some stuff, but that's all I know.
That's all right, man. Again, appreciate you coming on. Don't go anywhere, but everybody stick around. We're going to do our housekeeping in just a sec. All right, man. That was awesome. What do you think, Bo?
Yeah.
Really cool, right?
Another super cool guest.
Yeah, man. He's full of knowledge.
Full of knowledge, man.
Great insight on stuff. Great take on this world. It's funny because I had a lot of questions that I, always kind of keep a short list of questions. And he was answering that. He was kind of bringing them up as he was elaborating on things. I'm like, yeah, man, I was going to ask him about that. That's, it's just on the same page.
And,
so,
he led to the personal development side of things as well.
You love that stuff, don't you?
Well, because it's, it's sort of integral in everything somebody does.
Yeah.
Everything you choose to do, whether it's jiu-jitsu, racing, business, relationships.
Yeah. Mindset.
Still comes down to that mindset thing.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you for sticking around. Just a little heads up. I think I mentioned it on the episode. We do have, tentatively, we have Elizabeth Clay, Fight to Win champ, and Kendall Rusing, both next week. 2 separate episodes. We'll be filming 2 next Saturday. So keep an eye, guys. We got some really cool stuff coming up. Which one's my camera, Bo?
Nice.
Be there,
that
be
one's
square.
Your camera.
Tune in, guys.
Well, that one's your close up over there.
That's my close up.
There you go.
So yeah, we got So I'm here. So we got 2 really cool episodes coming up, guys. So besides Eli, this was awesome. Again, thank you, Eli. We appreciate you. So don't forget, guys, support us on for the Jiu Jitsu Dummies Foundation. Check out the GoFundMe link in the description on either the app, Sound, or on YouTube. You can find everything, all the different ways you can work with us at Jiu Jitsu Dummies on Instagram. But if you want to go to Facebook, it's facebook.com/the Jiu Jitsu Dummies Foundation. You can donate right on those pages. It's really easy, and we definitely appreciate the support. If you donate to the foundation and you donate at least $50, you can get an embroidered belt from Flow and Roll. Right? Put your name on it, your academy name, whatever you want. Or we'll get you a mug. Bo, you got the mug over there? Mm-hmm. You can get a foundation mug from the podcast shop. All right. So for every $50 you donated. If you've ever donated to us before and it was $5, $10, $50, whatever it was under $50, and you wind up donating and the total is $50, shoot me a message. We'll send you the embroidered belt or the mug. Okay. Shout out to our podcast patrons. We very much appreciate all the support you guys give us. We have a new gym sponsor, Carlson Gracie Winter Haven in Winter Haven, Florida. You can check them out at cgwinterhaven.com. You can check them out on Instagram at Carlson Gracie _Winter Haven. All right. We've also got Carlson Gracie Broward County down in North Lauderdale, right, in Florida. That's Carlson Gracie BrowardCounty.com. And you can check out their Instagram at Carlson Gracie Broward County.
It's that new mouth, huh?
Yeah, it's the new studio. John Way Martial Arts in Plantation, Florida. Thank you again for all the support. JohnWayMartialArts.com and at John Way Martial Arts on Instagram. All righty. Podcast patrons include Robert Walker, Frank House, Wolseley Rivera, Boa Athletics, and you can check them out at BOA_athletics on Instagram. Michael Pixley Jr., Jason Smiley, Britt Tavar. Love you, Britt. Love our conversation the other day about what you're doing with Fight Back. Keep it up. James Fisher, CJ Carroll, Mission 22, Chuck Reddoor, and Roberto Santiago. Thank you guys all for your support. We appreciate everything you do. Listen, every little bit counts. You are helping us do things like this, like moving to a new studio down here in Miami. All right. If you like to support the show, visit patreon.com/Jiu Jitsu Dummies. Now, what do you get for that? All right. You can donate as little as $5 a month to get a shout out like you just heard. You're automatically entered to win up to $100 in jiu-jitsu swag every single month. We put you and the people that sent us questions into one pool. Like questions for that month. If you submitted questions for an episode in that month, we put them all together. We use an app. We do a drawing. And then we're going to award you up to $100 in gear. We've got gis from Tap Cancer Outcoming. We've got a gi from Flow and Roll. We've got Fight Back has done $100 kind of a triple pack of CBD. He actually wound up sending CBD bath bombs and I think a roll-on to our last winner. So appreciate Justin for doing that. But you could win up to $100 in jiu-jitsu swag every month. Right now, the pool is small. You're in a drawing of about 20 people each month. Think about the odds. So you could win up to $100 in gear. A lot of our podcast patrons have won multiple times. Do it. Jump in. Check out the podcast store at jiujitsudummies.shop. All right, www.jiujitsudummies.shop. The Instagram is also at Jiu-Jitsu Dummies Shop. Get 15% off with code JJD. All right. You can also get free shipping on orders over $50. We've got rash guards, tees. We still have face shields up, backpacks, coffee mugs. We've got it all. We want to thank the We Defied Foundation for their support as well. And really everything that they're doing for veterans and the jiu-jitsu community. For those of you who don't know who they are, what they do, they provide therapeutic relief to disabled combat veterans through jiu-jitsu. You can check them out at We Defy Foundation on Instagram. And you can also donate anytime at wedefyfoundation.org. They're doing some really cool stuff for Memorial Day. Go to their Instagram. Check it out. You can jump in. You can get some T-shirts. You could do a cool kind of fundraising / fitness event. It's really cool. Check it out. As always, we love them. Justin from Fightback CBD. Get 20% off your CBD order at fightbackcbd.com with code JJD. He's been with us from the beginning. Again, Justin, we appreciate you and all you do for the show. Last but not least, the Amazon Smile. Okay? A small way that you can help us. If you're an Amazon shopper, go to your Amazon account, go into the settings, find Amazon Smile. You can choose a foundation or a nonprofit that you want to donate to. And every time you order, it changes nothing about the way you shop. But every time you order, it'll give us a little piece. It'll donate like 0.05% of your order, which is great for us. Every little bit counts, like I said before. But go in, make those changes. So every time you shop, you're going to see it says, instead of just Amazon, it says Amazon Smile on the app or on the website, and shop as normal. All right. So again, we appreciate everything that you do for us guys. We couldn't do this without your support. Oh, you got anything?
A little gas.
Thank you for setting up the new studio. You did an awesome job. I love it. They're only seeing me in the backdrop, but you got sound deadening panels everywhere. We've got some new equipment, new mic booms. Appreciate everything you're doing, man. Love it.
Thank you.
All right. Check me out at Uncle Milty BJJ on IG. Thank you for watching and listening, everybody. Stay safe. Us.